Uh, we're now recording. I'm going to let you know that there's a possibility that I will make this recording public. So I just want you to have that warning ahead of time. No surprises here. Uh, let's get started. My name is Shmuel Shalom Cohen, and I can see your name's Julia. So let's get started. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. That's how our most sacred book, the Torah, starts. Oh, and by the way, if you have any questions, feel free to ask at any time. Uh, so that's how our most sacred book, the Torah, starts, at least according to most English translations. My question is that really how it starts? I want to show you something. I was debating on making this into a document to show you, but I thought it'd be more fun to show you live. This is a volume of the first book of the Bible, first book of the Torah. It's called Breshit, or Genesis in English, and it's got Hebrew. It's mostly Hebrew, but don't worry about it. I'm not going to ask you to understand what I'm showing you. I want you to see the effect of this, though. This up here at the top, that's separated out. This is the Hebrew of the first verse. It reads Breshit bara Elokim et haaretz ve'etz, and there's one word missing, which we'll get to in just a second. But I want you to see the rest of this page. It's all commentaries on this verse. And if I show you the next 2 pages, or more commentary.
Wow.
And then we finally get to here, haaretz. That's the end of the verse. So there's 7 words. And there is, 2, 4, or 2, 3. I'm missing one. I think there should be 1, 2, 3. Well, at least 3 pages. I thought there were 2 more, but there's 3 full pages of discussion on those 7 words. There's got to be more to it than in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. So what are they talking about? Well, Hebrew is a fun language because there's multiple ways to translate it into English. The first word is Breshit in Hebrew. In the beginning, Reshit, Rosh is head. So that's where you get the beginning from. But it could be the bet, which is a prefix meaning in, could also mean with. So with creating the heavens and the earth. Or during the creation of those times, something's happening. Bet is also, in Hebrew, letters are also numbers. Aleph is 1, Bet is 2. So you could say there are 2 beginnings where God created the heavens and the earth. Okay. We could break sheet into Rosh, meaning head, and sheet, meaning 6. So you could say, in the beginning of 6 creations, God created the heavens and the earth. Or bara sheet, bara meaning to create, that's something out of nothing. In the creation of 6 worlds, something created the heavens and the earth. Which leads to a story that we have that this is not the first world. God created and destroyed many worlds before we came to this one. There's another interesting piece. The first word is Breshit, the second word is bara. It's a verb in singular third person. Elokim, the next word, is plural. It's translated to mean God. And it really means the root of all powers. El, the beginning of it is power. So, but what you have is you've got a plural with a verb that's singular. It doesn't fit. So what you could translate this as, in the beginning, something big, unknowable. We can't even put a name on it. Created the laws of the heavens and the earth, the powers that create the heavens and the earth. Mother Nature, if you will, for both heaven and the earth. Which fits with the next verse, which says there's emptiness and void. Nothing's there yet. And then we have the third verse, let there be light. God said, let there be light, and there was light. The Big Bang.
Mm.
So there's multiple ways of understanding what is going on here. It's not something simple. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Okay. What's going on here? It's one of the very first things the Torah is teaching us. There is no one right way. There is no one right way to read it.
Mm.
It's coming from an infinite source and hence has infinite meaning, layer upon layer of meaning. And it's left to us to understand it as best we can. And what's the implication of this? There's no one right or wrong way. This is a very important teaching in Judaism and why Jews have never proselytized. We have our way, you have yours, say the Jews. Judaism, even the ultra-Orthodox, have never claimed that Judaism is the only way. As one of our sacred texts, the Talmud tells us, these are the words of the living God, and these are the words of the living God. We argue, sure we argue, but the point of an argument is not to win.
Mm-hmm.
The point of an argument is to understand things better. The Talmud says that an argument for the sake of winning is not an argument that endures, but one for the sake of understanding is one that endures. Now, just to let you know, a little side note, the Hebrew word for argument is machloket, and the root of this word is chelek. I know I'm giving you a lot of technical stuff here. Chelek means a piece or a part. So an argument, according to Hebrew, is not I'm trying to win something and make you lose something. Rather, it's we all need to contribute our part in order to see the whole picture.
Mm.
If you don't contribute your piece, then we've got a hole in our picture. We can't fully understand it.
Mm.
So really, when we're arguing, we're not arguing trying to win. We're arguing to try to present our views, our unique ways of seeing it, our piece of the puzzle.
Mm.
So before I go further, I want to make sure that you know that this is a class on the Jewish sacred texts. It's a brief introduction to the books that are the main puzzle pieces of the Jewish tradition. When you get a handle on these books, you're going to see a multi-dimensional picture of the Jewish tradition and who the Jewish people are and their part within humanity and in Tikkun Olam, which is Hebrew for fixing the world. What I'm going to present tonight is a taste, and it might just be exactly what you want and what you need. And if that's the case, then I've done what I set out to do tonight. However, if you want to go deeper into these texts and their picture of Judaism, and in fact read a little bit from each text, then with your permission, later tonight, I will provide a way that you can do that. Does that work for you?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So before we go on, let me introduce myself. I know you know me, but it's part of the script, so I'm going to say it anyway. There might be something you don't know anyway. My name is Shmuel Shalom Cohen. I grew up as your typical American non-Orthodox Jew. I went to Hebrew school, had my bar mitzvah, and then I walked away from Judaism because it was nothing but empty ritual in a language that I just didn't understand. There was nothing practical or helpful to it at all. Instead, I studied computer science, spent 10 years in Silicon Valley working as a software engineer, and going to Grateful Dead concerts. It was a great life. Something, however, was missing because I've always been spiritual. And I was searching for that spiritual thing that had meaning to me. Now, in the early 90s, I moved up to San Francisco and I had a short exploration with Buddhism. And then I discovered a shamanic tradition called the Third Road. There, I learned what ritual is really all about, among other things. And part of that shamanic work is working with your ancestors. And as I worked with mine, which happened to be Jewish, I realized I needed to know something about Judaism.
Mm.
So I started reading the Torah for the first time, and I was blown away by how much was in it, so much more than I'd ever been told. Up to that point, it was like, yeah, there's a coat of many colors, there's a golden calf, and that was about it.
Mm.
And now I'm reading, there's many more stories and lots of in-between pieces. Fabulous. Um, and the version of the Torah that I was reading included an English commentary. And that was really eye-opening as well, because there were parts in it that were really good in helping me understand what the Torah was saying. And then there were parts that were just so far out. I'm like, what was this guy smoking? I can come up with something that makes much more sense than what you're saying in your commentary.
Mm.
And yet it had its important place too. I eventually moved to Eugene, Oregon, and I started learning with Rabbi Hanan Sills. And eventually, with the encouragement of a Rabbi Gershon Winkler, I moved to Israel and studied there for almost 10 years.
Wow.
The first 2 of those years, I felt like a kid in a candy store because of all the books that were available to read. There were the mystical books and the legal books and the stories and the philosophies and the commentaries. And it was like, where in the world do you start? I dove in and I enjoyed. And as I studied, I started seeing a living, vibrant tradition based on personal growth and healing the world. As I worked with the texts, I found myself growing as a person as well as becoming more grounded in who I am and finding that I had the strength to stand tall for what I believed in. And how important it is to do things like ask for forgiveness and make amends, even when it's hard. As you can, when you make amends, when you can turn a sin or a mistake into a blessing, uh, it's an amazing, amazing thing. You've become closer to somebody than you had before. And this is, I also learned the importance of forgiving others and how important my word is. See, the Torah tells us we're made in God's image. And just as God spoke and created the world, my words and your words have the power to change the world and create new worlds. So do you want a world that collapses because of lies and a lack of integrity? Or would you prefer a world that is solid, where people follow through on what they say and treat others with dignity? It all starts with your words.
Mm.
Now, as a side note, and where it says we're made in God's image, God created the Ha'adams, the Hebrew, in God's image. I want to point this out for 2 things. One is Ha is a prefix meaning the. God created the Adam. Adam is not a name of a person. It's not male. It is humanity.
Mm.
And the importance of this, it then immediately says God created male and female together, emphasizing this. The point that it's being taught here, one of the teachings, is that nobody's better than anyone else because of their parents, because of their lineage,
Mm.
because everybody comes back to Ha'adam. We all have the same parents. Nobody can say, well, my parents are better than yours. So I experienced and understood the power and magic within the rituals of this tradition. The study showed me a Judaism I'd never seen, and because I was studying with people, I became part of a vibrant healing community. Now, I also knew there were many people back in Eugene and other places who were searching as I was, and I wanted to help them. I still want to help them. And I'm hoping that what I have to share with you will help you on your path, whether it's a Jewish path or another path. I'm certainly not expecting you to follow my path. Rather, I'm hoping to share what I've learned so you can get a better picture of Judaism by putting the pieces together with my help. You don't have to follow my path unless you want to. I'm not sure I suggest or recommend doing that.
Mm.
But just as the third road, which is the shamanic tradition that I studied that led me to Judaism, helped me connect or reconnect to Judaism, to a Jewish spiritual path, um, I am hope that whatever I have to share with you about Judaism will help you connect to your path and strengthen that connection. And if it does that, I'm all for it. Sound good?
Yes.
All right. So let's start with the question that brought us here. What are the Jewish sacred texts? Essentially, there are four things. There's the Torah itself. The Torah is the first 5 books of the Hebrew Bible: Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy. Um, that's the first thing. The next, and actually, Torah in Hebrew comes from the same root as Mora, which is a teacher, and Hora, which is a parent. And just like a parent or a teacher helps a person grow and learn to be a better person, the Torah essentially is an instruction manual to help us accomplish the same thing.
Mm.
So we have the Torah first. That's the first piece. The second piece is the rest of the Bible, the words of the prophets and the writings. The third piece are commentaries on the Torah. And the last piece is all the other writings. And this last group is small and tends to be esoteric. So we're not really going to worry about it much tonight. Instead, we're going to start with the beginning, which is the Torah. Now, what is the Torah? It's two things. It's a manual on becoming a better person, and it's also the blueprint of creation. If only we know how to decode it, we could improve ourselves in the world. And that's the problem. It's mostly encrypted and hidden from us. There's a story in our tradition. It equates the Torah with a beautiful princess.
Mm.
And she's in her room in the castle, and she sees a beautiful young man walking by. And she wants to get his attention. So she kind of stands by the window and lets him see like her silhouette a little bit. And he's like, and he's intrigued. So he comes back and starts passing her window more and more. And she wants to keep him coming back. So she shows a little bit, and maybe some of it's her hair or something like that. And he wants more. So he starts writing her love songs and singing her love songs and saying poetry to her.
Mm.
Wanting to get to know her more and more. And she reveals a little bit more of herself, and she gets attracted to him and he gets attracted to her. Okay. As I said, the princess is the Torah. We're the young man. So the Torah shares a little bit of itself, reveals something, uh, you know, simple to us to get us intrigued. And we go, wow, this is interesting. I want to know a little bit more. I want to know more about the Torah. So I study it. And as I do that, then she'll reveal a little bit more to me. Okay, so this is the idea that what the story is talking about. And I want to share some examples of this. Every 7 days, the Torah tells us we have what's called a Shabbat or a Sabbath, a day of rest. Now, how important is it for us to take a day off out of our busy lives in order to recharge and reconnect to ourselves and our families?
Mm.
What would your life look like if you designated a day every week to stop doing and to just be with yourself and with your family? A day where you don't turn on your computer or tablet. You turn off your phone and your TV. You put your money aside. Instead, you have a long leisurely meal with family and friends. You get on the ground and you play with your children or the children of your friends. Meditate or you sit and talk, and you just be with yourself, your family, your friends, and the highest source. How would that look? Could you imagine a whole community doing this? And not because they have to, but because they want to. Now, perhaps you can't pull off a whole day. How about doing just an hour at first? Or maybe an evening or a morning. Try it every week for a month or two, and I think you'll be surprised at the difference it makes in your life. Now, when I was studying the shamanic tradition, we had a daily meditation, and I got to a point I just couldn't focus on it. So I went to my teacher, and I said, "Can you help me? I don't know what to do." And she thought about it, and she looked at me and she said, "Do you light the Friday night Sabbath candles?" And I looked at her and I said, "No." And she said, "You need to start."
Mm.
And I looked at her and I said, "Well, now wait a minute. We're doing this pagan thing here. That's a Jewish thing."
Mm.
And she's like, "You know, that's what my guides are telling me to tell you."
Mm.
I said, "Okay, fine." So that Friday, I got some white candles. I lit them. I said the blessings. And the most amazing thing happened. This veil of calmness
Mm.
just came down over the whole apartment. And the next morning, I woke up and I did the meditation without a problem. It was amazing. So Shabbat is just a glimpse of the life-transforming powers found in the Torah. Most of it's hidden. I want to give you another example of how it can help us heal the world by telling us one of the things it tells us to do is not embarrass another person. Can you imagine a world where nobody embarrasses another person? Have you ever had somebody embarrass you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have too. What would your life look like if you had never had any of those experiences of being embarrassed?
Mm. I have a lot more confidence.
Hmm.
I wouldn't be hesitant. I'd be more expressive.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Whole different world.
Hmm. I wouldn't be apprehensive.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Willing to take risks a little bit more,
Hmm.
have a little more trust and confidence. This is what the Torah, these are just two of the things that are in the Torah shares with us. Um, and it shares these on a revealed basis. Don't embarrass another person. Keep this on this every 7 days. Don't do any work. But it also has a hidden part, which is that what the effects are by following these things.
Mm.
And if you take some time and you think about it and you meditate on what these things are and how they will affect your life, it can give you the strength and the excitement to try them. Now we can spend lifetimes decoding the Torah, or we can look at the works of those who have spent their lives studying and decoding the Torah. Now Hillel, who was a great sage from about 2,500 years ago, somebody asked him to explain the Torah while standing on one foot. And his answer was, don't do to others what you don't want done to yourself. Everything else is commentary. Now
Mm.
go and study. And he's right. There's the Torah, and almost everything else is commentary. And this doesn't matter whether we're talking about the Talmud, which is mostly details of law, or the Zohar, which is about the inner workings of the Kabbalah, the mystical side of the Jewish tradition. It's all commentary, trying to help us understand a facet of the Torah. And in fact, one way to think of the Torah is like a multifaceted diamond. Each face shows us something different, and we just need to hold it up to the light and look at it, turn it a little bit. The Torah itself is made up of rules and stories. And likewise, all its commentaries have a mix of rules and stories. The Talmud, which is Hebrew, Gemara is Aramaic. And you'll hear these are basically two words that get interchanged all the time. Mostly has to do with the commands in the Torah and trying to understand how to implement them. So it goes into a lot of details that way, as well as explanations of what the Torah is trying to, actually. I'm trying to read notes and ad lib at the same time. It doesn't always work. So the Talmud is mostly about the details of how to do the commandments, as well as explanations of what the Torah is trying to tell us. And you can think of this as a discussion of master athletes talking about how they train. So imagine, if you will, like Muhammad Ali, and he gets together with Michael Jordan and Arnold Palmer and Steffi Graf and Mark Spitz and Wayne Gretzky and Wilt Chamberlain and Babe Ruth and Tom Brady. And they all sit down and they all have this conversation about how they train and how they do things. Can you imagine how it's going to go? Well, I do it this way. Well, I do it that way. Well, are you sure that's a good way to do it? Maybe this would be a better way to do it. And in the middle of all this, they would go off and somebody would, I did that once, and they go into a story. And someone along the way would ask, Michael Jordan, how in the world did you manage to make that crazy move? I've tried. And he goes, it's because this is how I trained in order to be able to do it. So you'd have all this discussion going on and stories and everything. That's basically what the Talmud is. Mm. And just like I was choosing, Babe Ruth lived almost 100 years ago. Mark Spitz was in the 70s. Michael Jordan was in the 90s. Tom Brady's now. It's all a different range of people. The Talmud is the same thing. It's all these sages who spent their lives studying and trying to understand and break this stuff down for a couple hundred years. Imagine them all coming into a room together and having these discussions. That's what it's about. That's what the Talmud is. And it contains stories as well as the discussions, the detailed stuff, because sometimes I can give you a command, do this. But sometimes you can't really explain to somebody something by giving them a rule. But if you tell them a story, you get the message across. And that's why sometimes there are stories and sometimes there are details. So there are stories everywhere, but there's a set of books called Midrash, which are mostly stories. But within them are also details on how to improve a person's Jewish spiritual practice. So it's almost like a yin-yang sign. You've got in the story-oriented places, you still have little bits of rules, and in the rule-oriented places, you have stories. They're both necessary. And as I said just a minute ago, the stories are sometimes there to explain something you can't explain otherwise. I actually want to give an example of that. There's a midrash, there's a story about Adam talking to his son Cain. Now Cain is telling him how he repented after he killed his brother Abel. And when Adam heard this, he went, "Oh, if only I had known that I could have repented. I could have told God how sorry I was from eating from the tree of knowledge and promised I wouldn't do it again. Maybe we'd never have gotten thrown out of the Garden of Eden." Didn't know. This story tells us a couple of things. One is mistakes happen. It's okay. It teaches the importance of asking questions and asking for your needs, and also the power of making amends, of doing what's called tshuva. Tshuva is a Hebrew word badly translates as repentance. It really means coming back onto your path.
Mm.
Um, so how many of you, it's only one of you, but how many of you, when you do something that hurts another, goes back and tells them, goes back to the person you hurt, ask them how you can fix it, how bad you feel for having done the thing you did? It's a really hard thing to do, I know. But the harder things are the more powerful things. And how much of a difference do you think it would make in your relationships with people if you approached them in this way? I did something, I really feel bad, I hurt you, I'm sorry. How can I make it up to you? I promise I won't do it again. Um, it would change your relationships, wouldn't it? This is one of the hidden things that the Torah suggests doing to improve your life and the life of the people around you. And thank God we have our higher source, whatever you want to call it, Goddess, thank Goddess, we have the Midrash to reveal this Torah secret to us so we don't have to spend a lot of time struggling to discover it ourselves. So there's a lot more that I don't have time to cover. We're going a little faster than I was expecting to, but then I was expecting a few more people here too.
Mm.
But there's a lot more I want to cover than what we have time for. And that, let me start that over again. There's a lot more I don't have time to cover that will enhance your picture and perception of Judaism. I know I've mentioned a few things, and in a little bit I'll go over with you a picture of the Jewish sacred texts and how they fit together, because that's part of what we're trying to do is see how this puzzle fits together. And if you want more, I'm happy to provide it. I have a class coming up. I call it the Jewish Sacred Text class. I'm doing it online, and it's going to start on Tuesday night. I'm not sure, the 24th, I think it is. It'll be online. It'll be starting at 6:30 p.m. my time, which is Pacific time. It's 5 weeks. Each class is an hour to an hour and a half in length, and there'll be time during each class to ask questions, and also during the week, if you have a question, you have email access to me. I want to keep the class small, no more than 10 people, to keep it intimate and make sure that everybody gets their questions answered. And the benefits to this class include a better understanding of Judaism in general and how each text adds to that picture, as well as hands-on experience with the text, so you'll know them firsthand. It will also provide you seeing some of the Jewish ways of improving your life and improving the life of people around you, helping improve, connect you to your spiritual path, and helping the world. My classes often bond into a small community as we share and grow together. And the class is $180. If I was doing this one-on-one, I'd be charging $260. So you're saving $80. And if you had followed my path and went to yeshiva for 10 years, each year it's cost thousands of dollars, much not beyond the time. So you really have a savings by coming in, sitting in on 5 weeks of classes instead of 10 years of classes, not to mention the cost, because I'll be giving you straight just the specifics that you need.
Mm.
If you don't want to make a big payment of $180, you can make 2 monthly payments of $97. So if you're looking to understand how the puzzle we call Judaism fits together, so you can see its beauty, if you think this is going to help you on your spiritual journey, if you're comfortable with me as a teacher and want to learn as part of a community, then please sign up. And if not, then please do not sign up. I don't want you to take something that's not going to serve you. If you're yes, and you're excited and maybe a little bit nervous about signing up, I'm going to encourage you to sign up anyway. I'll give you a full money back guarantee if you're not fully satisfied after the first 2 classes, as long as you tell me before the 3rd class. So to sign up for the class is very, very easy. There is a website to go to, and I'm going to now share my screen and show you the page. If I can find it in here. Where is, I thought I had this set up to show me this, but why am I not finding it? Okay, hold on a second. I apologize for taking time, but it's not showing me the, I'm going to clear out some things so I can find the web page. Is the right word? Why do I have? There's some very strange things going on here. This is this one? Let's see if that's it. Okay, that showed me part of what I wanted to show. This is what I wanted to show you. Okay, so this is the page, and I'm going to put the page, in a minute I'll put the link to the page in the chat. But when you come to it, when you follow this link, if you want to sign up for the class, you'll get this page, putting the pieces of Judaism together, solving the Jewish sacred text puzzle. That's the other name for it. Down here, if you follow my pointer of my mouse, I give a description of the class, and on the other side are things that people have said about the class or about my teaching. I'll give a little bit about myself as well. If you keep going to the bottom, here's the list of when the classes are. November 24th, December 1st, 15th, 22nd, and 29th. They'll be done online, just like we're doing this class. Recordings will be available. I will also have handouts information available. And you don't have to know anything about Judaism in order to be able to take the class. So if you want to take this class and you continue down to the bottom, you have 2 choices. You can sign up on this side for the full 180. And if you type in intro 10 and press apply the coupon, it will apply the 10% coupon. You have $162. You can do the same on the other side, and it will discount the $97. This is a 2-month payment option, $97 each month. If you apply the coupon intro 10, it will give you a 10% discount on that. Then fill out your name and email address and click on sign me up. It'll take you to a PayPal page where you'll fill out your your information to pay for it, credit card or however you want to pay. It's PayPal, it's nice and secure. You'll send you a receipt, and then I will send you information on on the link to the class. All there is to it. So with that, I am going to add in, down here, okay, a link to the page is now in the chat.
Got it.
Okay, great. Do you have any questions at this point?
I do. I'm
Okay.
I'm curious because I was brought up a Christian, right?
Uh-huh.
So I mean, in the Old Testament. So is the Torah? You said it's the first 5 chapters. So is it the same first 5 chapters of the Bible?
It's the
Or
first 5 books, not chapters, but books.
well, books?
Uh, okay, and you can, yeah. There are, I think there's a total of 22 books. I was getting mixed up, 22 or 24 books in the Bible.
So is
Uh,
the Torah very similar? I mean,
the
is
first,
it very
the
similarly
first,
written to what is written in the Bible? Very similar.
the first 5 books of the Bible, whether it's the Christian Bible, the Old Testament, or the Hebrew Bible, are the first 5 books are Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy.
Right.
Those 5 books are make up what's called the Torah.
And they're
Uh,
very similar writing. The difference, I'm just trying to figure out, is it, or did we corrupt it? I mean, I don't know.
it, it,
Because the Torah seems
here's
to have commentary, right? The Torah seems to have commentary, or is that, or was it just the book that you had has commentary?
okay. What you have the original book, the original 5 books were written in Hebrew. Okay, it has uh, after Alex after Alexander the Great died, one of his chiefs that took over Egypt was named Ptolemy. He asked 70 rabbis to translate it into Greek. It's called the Septuagint.
Mm.
Uh, it went from the Greek into Latin and Latin into English. So each time there's a translation made, there's you run into a couple of issues. One is the biases of the translator and the agenda the translator has.
Mm.
The second thing, when this happened in the Jewish tradition, um, we called it a fast. We created a fast day for it. It was a day of mourning because we equated it to taking a lion out of the wild and putting it behind bars. It kind
Mm.
of lost its teeth. There's a lot that's missing when you don't have when you're not reading Hebrew. For example, at the very beginning of this class, I said, in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. That's how your typical English translation reads. Whether it's Christian or Hebrew, it doesn't make any difference. They're almost always going to read that way. But that leaves out all the other possible interpretations and understanding of what's going on in there. And that's what's missing. Um, the commentaries are there to help explain those things. Uh, there's pieces that seem to be missing. For example, in the uh, at one point there's a command to wear phylacteries, but it never says what phylacteries are. They're the little box you see Orthodox Jewish men wearing here and here, or fringes on the garment, but it doesn't say what they are, how to tie them, or anything else. And those are if you see the prayer shawls at the corners of the prayer shawls, there's a certain knotwork that's done, and that's what the fringes are. But the Torah doesn't say what those are.
Mm.
So the obvious question is going to be, if you ask somebody to wear these things, they're going to ask, well, what are they? How do I make them? How am I supposed to put them on? Um, it's so there's lots of things that are in the Torah that aren't fully explained. There are questions that's going to be there. Moses up on the mountain says, when he's getting this from God, is saying, God, look, I know that they're going to ask me. What am I supposed to tell them? And God says, well, this is what you tell them. So he comes down, and when you have the questions, he answers the question. And so we've got as a written Torah, which is almost like a bare bones uh, outline. And then there's an oral tradition that comes with it to answer those questions.
Mm. Okay.
Um,
And
And
that's what you went
that's,
to, that's what you spent 10 years in Israel with the rabbi, was getting the oral tradition.
oh, see, a lot of it was getting the oral tradition. So this thing called the Talmud or the Gemara is the oral tradition. The Mishnah, almost all the commentaries are really part of the oral tradition. Kabbalah actually comes out of the oral tradition, but it's all based on understanding the Torah. What is the Torah trying to tell us?
Mm.
There are places in the Torah where there's letters too big, a large letter or a small letter or a missing letter or an added letter. Why are they there? These are the types of things that, and I'll go into this a lot more inside the class itself.
Mm.
That's a lot of what I'm going to be talking about. But it's my understanding, I don't know Christianity that well, but my understanding is they say that there's the Torah, there's the Bible, and that's it. They don't even understand there is this oral tradition to explain things.
Right.
And that's a big part of what Judaism is about, is these having this commentary, this explanation of what's to help us understand what's the Torah trying to tell us. Does that make sense?
It does. Thank you. I just
Well,
wondered.
yeah. So, the Christians have the New Testament, the Jews don't. I think the order of the books is a little bit different in the later books, but I don't know the details of it because I never really studied the Christian version.
Right.
Okay. Any other questions?
So in the 10 years that you were in Israel, right?
Hmm.
Was it like going, I mean, were you immersed in studying? Were you working and studying? I mean, was it,
I was immersed
okay.
in studying and in practicing the tradition. So Israel is beautiful being in Israel because the the dynamics of the country are Jewish. Here they're Christian based. Yeah. The week starts on Monday. Here's the first day of the work week. In Israel, it starts on Sunday because Friday is getting ready for Shabbat and then Saturday Shabbat. Sunday is the first day of the week.
Mhm.
The holidays are focusing on the Jewish holidays, not on, we didn't celebrate Christmas in Israel because it's a Christian holiday. It's a Jewish state.
Mhm.
Um, the, you know, you pray 3 times a day. But what's nice is the afternoon and evening prayers are done around sunset, just before and just after sunset. So as the day gets long during the summertime, you pray later in the day. And in the wintertime, you're praying earlier in the day.
Mhm.
So you're paying attention to the seasons and to the hours of daylight. When the sun rises, when the sun sets. So you're paying a lot of attention to those types of details. Um, on the Sabbath, a lot of people, the community I was in, everybody there is getting ready for Shabbat. So you're cleaning your house and you're making food and you're buying food and it's just madhouse. It's with festive feeling, and then the and then it starts quieting down about an hour beforehand, and you're just finishing up the last little bits of to get ready. And then the sun sets, the air raid sirens go off actually to let you know it's time to light candles.
Mhm.
Um, and so you light the candles, and now sort of everything is quiet and peaceful. Where 4 hours earlier it was all hustle bustle. And you feeling the shifts. And when you're living with people who are all doing it together, you can feel that energy and that shift of change and the flow of how the Torah works because it's being enacted. The main holidays are being celebrated. Uh, and it fits with the seasons. Sukkot is the time you're supposed to be living in a temporary dwelling where you can see the stars through the roof. Well, if it happens in September, October, try doing that in New York. Uh, but, but in Israel, it's still warm and sunny. It's just days are getting shorter. So it's like, oh, it's time for the last camping trip of the year. So, but instead of going out to the woods, we'll do it in our backyard. So you've got that feeling going on through it all, and you can practice these things when you've got other people who are going around and asking for forgiveness and trying to make amends. It's much easier for you to do it too than if you're the only one doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got people who are, reading and discussing, trying to understand better ways of speaking, and trying to pay attention to their words and not to gossip. When you've got multiple people doing that, it's easy to do. When you sit and say, let's gossip, I don't want to hear about it, people understand what you're talking about because they're part of that community who knows that's a value, even if they're not following it. And that's what the advantage of being there was. It's not, it's not just, you can read about it, you can study about it, but it's about living it.
Mm-hmm.
And to be and that was a big part of being in Israel, was the experience of the practice, of the spiritual practice. When we're up on Mount Sinai and God says, do you want the Torah? The Torah says, we didn't say what's in it. And then, yes, we said, we'll do it. By the way, what's in it?
Yeah.
Literally, the Torah says, the Jewish people said, we will do and we will hear, in that order. And so, it's a weird order. So the commentators come and say, well, why is that order? Why in that order? Well, it must be because this is what they were saying. And then we've got a tradition that supports that. That said, we were willing to do whatever you want, God will do it. Just tell us what it is. That was how we responded when God said, will you accept my Torah?
And does Torah mean something? Like, does it have
Instructions?
Or it just, the Torah is like Bible, just the name of the book.
The Torah, each word in Hebrew means something.
Mm-hmm.
So Torah comes from the word instruct. You will I guess you will instruct, or you were instructed. Maybe no, you're instructing. It's or you will instruct, I guess is the way it is.
Okay.
And I said the same root word is morah, which is a teacher, and ahora, which is a parent.
Interesting. Well, that's great. Well, I can see we could really go deep into it in 5 weeks.
Right.
But still only touch the surface.
Exactly. I'm not even, just another little side note on the language. Lord our God. Lord, I think, is the 4-letter name, translates to Lord. Our God is Elohim. Well, the 4-letter name is based on the verb to be. So it's so to say the Lord doesn't really do justice when you're talking about something that was, is, will be, and is a master of everything, which is how to understand what those 4 letters mean. It's the word to be. It's the verb to be. It's not about. It encompasses all of time. And so we're talking about a being that's outside of time. So you lose that. The masculine and feminine. The 4-letter name is masculine. And I'm getting into some Kabbalistic concepts. Elohim, our God, is actually feminine. You lose that when you go into the English.
Hmm.
Um, so that's where those are just a couple of things that the commentaries are there to help explain and fill out, because if you just look at the words, you don't know that. You need someone to help explain those to you.
Hmm. Yeah.
And the books are written in a way that's not clear and obvious. They're encrypted in a sense too, because the whole point of Judaism is to be in relationship. It's all about relationships. Your relationship with another person, your relationship with the Great Spirit.
Hmm.
So let's not have a book that you just read, open, read, and you're done with it. Let's have a book that it forces you to have to engage with another person who's going to help you understand it. Because the whole point of it was supposed to be oral to begin with. It was never supposed to be those books. It's supposed to be passed down orally. So we needed to write it down in order to preserve it, because we were losing it because of all the chaos with the diaspora and with the Romans and the destruction of the temples. But that's a whole nother story.
Hmm.
But that gives you a little. I go into that a little bit more in the 5 weeks.
Hmm. Oh, great. Well, it seems more metaphysical than religious.
Yes,
Hmm.
exactly.
Hmm. Yeah.
So, do you have any other questions?
I don't think so.
Okay, I want to bring up one page, which hopefully will come up. It's this one, okay? And this is there we go. This is a diagram, and if you want a copy, I can, make it available to you, of the text, the sacred Jewish sacred texts, and how they kind of fit together. Now, what I apologize for using more Hebrew words than English words. The Bible itself would be encompassed by this box, which is the Torah, or Chumash in Hebrew, for 5, the prophets and the writings. So this whole thing would be the Bible,
Oh, okay. The Old Testament.
okay? The Old Testament.
Mhm.
I'm not including the New Testament in this,
Right.
okay? Now, I've got 4 types of colors. The white, um, well, I'll get to the white in a minute. There's blue, which are more story oriented. The yellow is more intellectually oriented. The green is a mix of both. And the white is unrelated. It's other. Okay, but they're important to have in there. So everything starts with the first 5 books of the Bible, the Chumash or the Torah. And then you've got the other writings, the rest of the Old Testament over here. Um, the Zohar, which is one of the mystical books, is a commentary on the Chumash. It's informed by the Chumash, just like the Midrash, which are stories, is informed by the Chumash, by the Torah. I'll use the Torah, and the Mishnah and the Bride. I'll explain these in a minute. Sefer Yetzirah, Behir, and Zohar are all Kabbalistic works. Zohar is more of a commentary than the others are. The others are more meditative. Sefer Yetzirah is attributed to Abraham, one of the patriarchs. Behir is from about 2,000 years ago. I think attributed to Rabbi Akiva. And when I say attributed, there's different opinions on who actually wrote these things. But that's uh, that's for another time. When Moses was up on Mount Sinai, he received an oral tradition. I talked about that a little earlier, answering one of your questions. That starts getting written down into something that becomes the Mishnah, that is written and finalized about 100, little after 100 CE. And a lot of it is a compilation of notes from from the sages. The notes that did not make it into the Mishnah are called Braitas. You don't have to worry about the names. It's just understanding that this is Mishnah's official, Braitas less official. But these are basically a lot of notes of teachings about what the Torah is talking about. Midrash are explanations or more stories about what the Torah is all about. Later on, we wind up with something called the Talmud of the Gemara, which is there are two versions. The later version gets codified in 500 CE, and basically what it is explanations, commentaries helping us understand what the Mishnah is, because after the Mishnah got written, we started forgetting what it meant. So we've got the Talmud explaining to us what the Mishnah is, using books from the prophet, from the rest of the Bible, from the whole Bible actually, and these other unofficial writings from the sages to help us understand. Then coming down from this, we wind up with this section here. Musar is Jewish ethics, and it's a whole category unto itself. And there are several books: Derech Hashem, The Pathway of God, Mesilat Yesharim, The Path of the Upright, and there's plenty more. I just listed those. The Talmud was supposed to, by studying that and practicing it, you were supposed to become a better person. When rabbis started seeing that wasn't working so well, they started creating their own books and creating their own practices to help with that. Coming down from the Talmud, the idea was that people were going to be studying the Torah all the time. And then the Torah and the Mishnah, and then the Torah, the Mishnah, and the Talmud. And from this, they were supposed to understand what they were supposed to do and how to live. People weren't doing that. We're now in the Middle Ages. We're now about roughly 1000 CE. And so you had three different rabbis, the Rif, the Rosh, and the Rambam, at different times over 200 years, each writing a codex saying, okay, these are the rules. This is what you're supposed to do. Let's take out all the stories and all the explanations. These are the bottom lines. Then the grandson of the Rosh wrote a book called the Torah, which is taking these three and kind of summarizing the best 2 out of 3 to try to make one final codex. These are the rules. Along the way, about 500 years ago, a Kabbalist named Joseph Caro came along, wrote a commentary on the Torah called the Beit Yosef, or the House of Joseph, and then wrote a Cliff Notes version called the Shulchan Aruch. Shulchan Aruch has become kind of the de facto standard of how you're supposed to act in the Orthodox Jewish world. However, even in it, there was somebody else who, Joseph Caro lived in Israel, so he was, but there was a rabbi referred to as the Ramah who lived in Germany, who was doing the same thing with the customs of the German people, German Jews. So he waited till the Shulchan Aruch was finished, added his commentaries into it, and so even in the Shulchan Aruch, where the idea was to have this is the one way to do it, you have this is the way to do it, but if you're German, you do it this way. It never ever gets, there's always, and then the Yemenites stay with the Rambam up here. They don't care about what anyone else has done since. Okay, so eventually what happened is people started not following the Shulchan Aruch because they didn't understand it, because they hadn't read the Torah. So you wound up about 100 years ago with people like the Chafetz Chaim, who wrote a book called the Mishnah Berurah, or the Ben Ish Hai, and there were a few others who wrote books that were there to help explain what the Shulchan Aruch is trying to teach. So this path is the yellow path, which are the more of the structure, the laws, the rules. Okay. The Midrash and is more the stories. The stories, the Zohar, and even the Talmud are a mix of stories and rules. And then you come down a couple of hundred years ago to another mystical group called called the Hasidim. They were started by the Baal Shem Tov, and a few texts came out of those, which are almost exclusively personal growth books. The Tanya was written by the second Lubavitch Rebbe. The Likutei Hamaran was written by Rebbe Nachman, who lived 150 years ago in Breslev. Phenomenal books. But I just wanted to let you know that these are personal. Rebbe Nachman was the first person to come along and say, "Don't worry, be happy."
Mm.
He said, "You're not allowed to be happy because it takes away from your connection to divinity. If you're in despair, you're not connected. You have to be happy.
Mm.
So you have to fight tooth and nail as hard as you can, never to be in despair. If you have to be, no more than an hour a day." He has put out wonderful teachings. So this is just an overall picture of how the books kind of all fit together, what they are and where they all kind of go together, and what I'll be talking about during the 5 weeks. I'll be going into each one of these in more detail, opening up so you can actually see them and get an experience of them, a taste of them. So with that, I am done.
Okay.
Unless you have any questions about anything I've covered tonight or anything else about the workshop, the 5-week class.
No. I expect you'll send out an email detailing all the stuff, like outlining the dates and things like that.
Mm-hmm. Especially if you sign up and pay. And this recording will be available for you if you want to watch it again. And like I said, I might very well put it up and send an email out asking, if people want to watch it, if they're interested in taking the class.
Great idea.
Watch it first.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Covered a lot of really good information. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you for attending.
Yeah.
Okay.